What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam, and this is Peacemaker Week, and Peacemaker Season 2 is now dropping on HBO Max, so I figured let's continue on with my Hot Toys unboxing and do a couple of DC figures. So today, we have Hot Toys 1/6 scale Superman from Man of Steel, and this is definitely an older figure I got on eBay, and really just loved the way that the base looked in this and the way that this figure looked. And if I figured if I was going to get a Henry Cavill Superman, this is probably the one to get. And this is MMS 200, which I believe is the 200th figure they did. Comment below if that is not what the MMS 200 means, but I'm pretty sure that's what it means. But you can see that big old Superman logo on the front there, some of the mountains in the distance, the sunlight peeking from behind the Superman logo, a bit of the snowy tundra on the side of the box with a little reflective Superman logo. Don't even know if you can see that really. Yeah, maybe a little bit there, but little logo there. Some legal information around the back of the box, a little bit of box damage, but I believe this figure is from like 2013, so it's an over 10-year-old figure at this point, so this means it's an over 10-year-old box. So, you know, for an over decade-old box, it's in great shape. But let's pop open the top of this box and pull out this figure. Alright, it says it comes with an MMS 200 special celebration gift of the Kryptonian command key, 1-to-1 scale. Very interesting. Then it looks like a tiny version over on this side. Couple of different hands, not too many accessories. Let's pop open the top of this. That's kind of cool. This is like a real die-cast Kryptonian command key of like a Superman logo. I'm not sure where you would put this because it can't necessarily like stand up on its own. Maybe you drill a hole through this, make it like a keychain. I don't know. I mean, it is yours. Do whatever you want with it. I wonder if it has like a something that it, you know, like magnets into. Yeah, that would be cool to kind of have just like around, you know, maybe you click it and then it lights up or something. That would be cool. It does feel like a big old heavy base down there. We'll take a look at that when we pull everything out, but just taking a closer look at this figure. Oh, pulling the cape out. I love characters with capes because you can feel the different materials they use over time. Sometimes they drape real well, sometimes they're red, sometimes they're green, sometimes they're more maroon, sometimes they're yellow, you know, like, very cool. But this Superman logo looks really good, the abs. I mean, I wish this suit looked this crispy on film. Like, it looks more flat and just blue on film. Where, like, seeing it up close and personal, like, it has a lot of detail that, you know, the film doesn't necessarily capture about this suit. Very cool. I love the red boots as well. No, that Henry Cavill head sculpt looks really good. It is an older figure, so the legs and the joints don't feel as sturdy as some of these newer ones do. But, you know, just comes with 3 sets of swap out hands, so 8 hands total. And then it comes with a little miniature 1/6 scale command key that I'm sure he can hold in one of these hands. Yeah, just kind of taking in like my first Superman DC figure here. And I'm impressed, but is it my Superman? I don't know. I really don't know. You know, like, I like Man of Steel and I liked the Schneider stuff, but it's just so dark, you know, like, doesn't feel like Superman. Like, I feel like Christopher Reeve, even though it would have to be a much worse looking Hot Toys figure, I still feel like it would feel more like Superman in my hand, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just the Henry Cavill of it all, but I don't know. He does really look like Superman, but I hated his Clark Kent. You know what I mean? Like, his Clark Kent was non-existent and terrible. And even as Superman, I mean, he's not wearing any trunks. He's naked, for God's sakes. Like, everybody else is wearing trunks except for this guy. You know, he's the odd one out. But I can't wait to get Corn Sweat's James Gunn's Superman Hot Toys figure. And then that will probably make me have to go get the other one as well and go get the Christopher Reeve. Now, I don't know if I'll get like Superman 3 Christopher Reeve, you know, where he's like the bad Superman, and I don't think I'll get like Brandon Routh, you know, Superman Returns Superman. But to start off my Superman collection with Man of Steel, I am not mad at all. This figure does look pretty damn good, and, you know, ripping off some plastic off of him, it does feel like it is sticking to him after some time, you know, so it feels like a little bit of the paint is coming off on like the cape, or maybe on the plastic, or even on like the top of the box there. The actual figure's paint itself looks fine, but you know, just be aware that if you're buying a new version of this and it's been in the package for some years, some of the paint could look a little different. You know, I'm curious to see what this will look like under, you know, a higher pressure light, and you know, see if that detail kind of shows up on camera or not. You know, I'm very curious, but from the eye, just looking at it now, it looks pretty damn good, although the body and the legs and the joints and stuff feel not so sturdy. But yeah, the cape feels like it drapes pretty good. Could drape better maybe, but yeah, it looks alright over the shoulders at least. Also, you know, an older figure, so I'm not sure what kind of posability he'll be able to do, but that will be for the posing section of this video. So let's pull everything that the Henry Cavill Hot Toys from Man of Steel, and let's pull everything out that he comes with and lay it out in front of me on the table here and take a closer look at all of his accessories.
All right, we have the Superman, Henry Cavill Superman, that is, from Man of Steel, out in front of us here, standing on his display base on his own, which might be harder for some people than you'd think, because his joints are not very sturdy, and this thing has fallen over at least 3 times since I put it on that base yesterday. And he comes with a ginormous flight pole, which the clamp only attaches to at the top, so you can kind of get a nice looking flying pose, which we'll definitely try out in the next posing section of this video. But let's go through his accessories that he comes with. He comes with 2 more relaxed hands. He comes with 2 flying straightforward hands. And then he comes with 2 also kind of relaxed hands. But you can see that little tiny black thing you can shove in between his fingers. It comes with a 1/6 scale Kryptonian command key, which for them, luckily enough, they sent us a larger version so we can actually see what it looks like. Although it has nothing to go into, it is the Kryptonian command key. I was saying in the previous section of the video, maybe if you wanted to, you could drill a hole through this and make it like a part of your keychain. But for me, I think I'm just going to leave it by Soups and his base. And just kind of cool that they give us a little tiny version. And they were like, yeah, why don't we throw in like a full-size version so people know what the little version is? You know, because it's so small, you can't really make out detail, but this is pretty much it.
But you can see there the little Kryptonian command key that you could shove in between his fingers. And that's definitely exactly like the larger version. But, you know, you can have him displayed with it. And since this character has so few accessories already, I guess let's jump right on into the figure and that display base that he stands on. We'll go over that first. You can see on the front there, it says Man of Steel Superman, and then it has his classic logo from that movie. It's shaped like an S, but it winds like a river, you know, and then it has that little yellow detail underneath. Yeah, very sizable base. I don't necessarily always like this size of base, but when you have a super flying character, you need a little bit of weight, which these bigger bases definitely have. And this one is a little bit heavier. And I think it's mostly just to be able to hold up Superman when he's in that flying pose. And that flight pole there screws in at the top there. But yeah, now to check out this figure. And we'll start with the head sculpt. He does look really much so like Henry Cavill. I mean, it is slightly dated. I'm sure the head sculpts they make today look way better. But, you know, this is an older figure. This is MMS 200, and it is from, I believe, like 2013. And you can feel it in a lot of areas. But even so, looking at the figure, me and my roommate were talking about it yesterday. There's little details in the black, the little yellow trim pieces, the black on his gauntlet. And watching the film, you know, he was saying to me, and I thought the same thing, we never really see any of that detail on this suit. Like, this suit in person is so highly detailed, but in the movie, it just looks like a darker navy blue, and the only really thing that pops is that logo, the cape, and the red boots, which those ankles are, I don't even know, maybe they might be busted, and this guy just, like, put them back. I don't know, but I thought this figure was still, you know, pretty brand new out of box, even though it's 13 years old. I don't think this was like pre-owned and like, you know, in somebody's
display set up, you know what I mean? Like a couple of my other figures definitely were. This one, on the other hand, I think is just old, you know, and the joints in his knees are weak, you know, like, you know, like he just falls backwards on his own, which every other figure would not do that, you know? Even like the joints up top here, you know, you you just shake him a little bit and he ends up sideways. Like, no, most of the joints for these figures are much more stiff than this bad boy, you know, out of the box. But, you know, some articulation, you can bend them forward to there, bend them back, you know, side to side. Leg goes all the way back to there, up to there, you know, so some decent articulation. And a couple of points that I definitely want to point out is, you know, if you leave this like this for a long time, that suit might not, you know, look like that forever. Although this material does feel like it might, you know, maybe repair over time. But you can see a little bit on his cape there. Out of the box, from it being in there for 13 years, the cape in a few spots, you know, you can see it down here as well. The cape in a few spots was stuck to the suit. And you can actually see on the back of the leg there, that's probably the worst spot. But, you know, it ripped the paint away because it was stuck to the back of the character for so long, you know, and there's not too much paint damage on it, you know, and if it is, it's on the back of the figure, so I don't mind too much. But, you know, it just goes to show, you know, if you want to order this figure brand new out of the box, it still might have some problems because it's a very old figure. But it does do what I wanted it to do and add a Superman figure to my collection. And also, you know, just give me the best looking suit from Henry Cavill's era of Superman. But I can't wait to get David Cornsweat's Superman. And then now, even holding this one in hand, I kind of want to go get the Christopher Reeve one as well. Because between Christopher Reeve, Henry Cavill, I mean, even Brandon Routh, and now David Cornsweat, it's really down between Christopher Reeve and David Cornsweat for me who my actual new Superman is, you know what I mean? But I still really have, you know, love for Henry Cavill and Man of Steel, but just for very, very different reasons, you know what I mean? Like, still a good movie, but just not sure if that's necessarily my Superman, you know what I mean? But let's take this bad boy and see if we can't get him into a couple of different poses and see what kind of posability this figure's capable of. And then we'll toss him next to some other DC figures and do a couple DC Hot Toys 1/6 scale comparisons. And then we'll toss this bad boy on the shelf. But let's jump on into that posing section. Alright, so we have the Man of Steel spinning around on the turntable for us in his normal standing straight up and down pose with double fists, just standing as if he just landed and he's angry and he's ready to beat some ass. His second pose, he's standing there holding the Kryptonian command key like he's about to enter his Kryptonian spaceship. And you can see the larger size of the Kryptonian command key that he has in his hand, the 1/6 scale life-size version in between his legs, sitting on top of the base. And then he's flying with one hand out like he's about to grab you, in the other hand like he's about to punch you in the face, in this kind of flying battle pose. And then he's flying, taking off with one arm up in the air like this classic Superman flying pose. And then we have his final pose where he's flying and landing with his arms in fists by his side with one leg up like the classic Superman pose. And he does just kind of look so majestic spinning around in front of me with his red cape blowing down by his ankles and, you know, just draping behind him so perfectly. And just the red as it pops off of his navy blue suit and just the little details of yellow on his belt and on his chest. Even though his chest emblem doesn't look as yellow as, say, the box yellow does. But the yellow on his belt buckle looks really yellow. And I don't know how movie accurate this suit is, but we have him sitting here in front of us and he's, you know, standing, or well, flying with the waist grabber pose. And he doesn't stand on his own so well. The ankle joints for this figure, for mine at least, is really weak. So I'm going to have to pose him with the flight waist grabber, which I hope doesn't damage the suit over time. And with this pose, hopefully, you know, the suit can remain as intact for as long as possible and I won't have to, ruin it, or the creases won't be too crazy. Maybe by his thigh up in this little gap here, maybe on his elbows, those might need to be straightened out a little bit more to be able to make the figure last a long time and do more of a museum pose. I wish I could just have him standing up, but I don't want to have him falling over every other day and having to stand him back up on the shelf. So this is probably what my Man of Steel will look like going into the future, and what it's going to look like sitting on my shelf. But there is another Superman that I had just gotten in, and I didn't mean to get this Superman in, but I was at my local comic book shop, Comically Speaking, in Reading recently, and I was able to pick up another Superman. So why don't we toss the in-art Superman from Dawn of Justice next to this Man of Steel Superman and see how the two companies' Superman figures compare. So with the Hot Toys Man of Steel flying next to the Dawn of Justice in-art Superman, and I don't remember the Dawn of Justice suit looking that much different from the Man of Steel. So is this Man of Steel suit that follows over into Dawn of Justice, is the Hot Toys version just too navy? Or did the Superman design change between movies? Because I think the in-art Superman on the right looks so much better. The skin tone maybe looks a touch white, but that could just because the Hot Toys figure looks maybe a little too tan. So, in person, I don't think the in-art one looks too white, but he does kind of seem like that face there, like he's just like a wax figure rather than a person, right? Like maybe with that paleness and that, just stone-like jaw. But he is Superman, so he does have a stone-like jaw, and his hair is a little bit more slicked and combed over than kind of windswept like it is, and it's a little longer in Man of Steel. So, maybe it's just that. But the actual suits themselves, the Dawn of Justice in-art one seems to have a better actual body underneath, but they both kind of have the same style of chrome underbody suit and then the suit over top of it. And I just like the way that the blue on the suit looks better on the in-art figure, but I like the way that the boots look on the Hot Toys figure more. I think the boots should be more red on the in-art figure, but the actual blue of the suit looks so much better, and the actual logo on the chest looks better. The gauntlets on the arm in Dawn of Justice seem to be like a lighter blue color, where in Man of Steel they might have been black. So I don't know if that's just a Hot Toys to in-art comparison, or if that's really something that happened between Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice. Now I'm gonna have to go watch those movies and look, with more closer eye and see if that's something that actually does happen. But comment below if you want to see a true comparison one-to-one, in the whole video dedicated to comparing these two figures in the Man of Steel Superman and the in-art 1/6 scale Dawn of Justice Superman. But I think you want to see Henry Cavill next to a potential Batman that he could have been next to if he actually did end up coming back as Superman. More than Ben Affleck's Batman for me, if Henry Cavill really was to come back after Black Adam the way that The Rock wanted him to, I would have really loved to see this Superman in this dark Snyderverse, grungy, dark universe of Superman end up bumping into the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman and how dark that universe is. And I think that probably would have worked a lot better than, say, trying to stick this Superman next to Black Adam and make Black Adam a big thing. I don't know what The Rock was thinking, like, oh, I'm gonna be Black Adam and be the new biggest thing in DC. And it's like, this character's never been on screen, and it's only like biggest fans want to see Black Adam and Shazam go up next to each other because, he literally, his power is directly related to Shazam. And The Rock was like, nah, I don't want to be in the Shazam 2 movie, but I'm going to try and steal Henry Cavill and try and steal the DCEU and try and take control of it. And then like James Gunn gets the job in the same day. Henry Cavill's like, I'm back as Superman. And James is like, wait, what? What the fuck? Like, no, I'm the one that's making his new Superman movie, and it's certainly not Henry Cavill. So then he has to call Henry and be like, yo, dude, I'm sorry, but you're not my Superman. Like, And, you know, for many people, he's not their Superman. But for me, Robert Pattinson is 100% my Batman. And, you know, maybe you would want to display these two figures on the shelf next to each other if that's the type of DC setup that you're trying to create. But at this point, now that I have a Henry Cavill Superman that I like, I think I'm at least going to go get the Ben Affleck Batman and have a Batman to put next to this Superman. But I also have James Gunn's David Cornsweet's Superman on its way. So maybe I'll have to have two different DC sections and have like the old DCU and the new DCU. But then there's also things like, you know, Robert Pattinson's Batman. So it's like, where does that fit in? You know, so maybe it will just be all on one DC shelf. But for the moment, I think I'm going to go toss this Superman in front of that Superman statue in the background there next to Peacemaker and see how those two bad boys look next to each other. And if you guys remember from the post-credit scene or like the very end of Peacemaker Season 1, we do see in all silhouette the Justice League, and we do see Henry Cavill in shadow, not there in the moment, but, you know, it's just mostly a throwaway Aquaman fucks fish line for Jason Momoa, and I think Ezra Miller is there as well. But, you know, what could have been if this Superman wanted to mess up Peacemaker in the other universe, in the old universe? I mean, shit, in the multiverse, these two are going at it, you know? Or maybe they're best friends. Maybe Peacemaker's a hero, and he fights with Superman in a different universe. But in the James Gunn universe that will be coming up, we will have Peacemaker Season 2 coming and David Cornsweet's Superman eventually coming, and then I'll have these two next to each other. But I figured toss Superman in front of my awesome Superman statue, 1 of 1,000 there. I friggin' love that thing and how big it is and how that cape looks with its swooping. I wish, you know, you were able to get as good a looking cape with like the wired capes, but the normal cape looks good, just relaxed down by his side, you know, flowing nicely. You know, not the best cape, but it looks fine. And Peacemaker looks freaking awesome. But if you guys made it this far into the video, thank you guys so much for coming on by. My name is Big Cam. This has been another Hot Toys 1/6 scale figure unboxing. And if you want to see more, there's plenty of videos on the channel with all of these other figures and their unboxings. So if you want to check any of these out, just go search Big Cam and whatever figure you're looking for, or Big Cam Hot Toys and then that figure's name, and it should come up. You know, for Deadpool or Wanda or Hulk or whoever you want. All these Spider-Man figures over here. Or maybe the Avengers up top there. Yeah, I love these three. Big old bro Thor. The big three, I call them. You know, Cap, Iron Man, Thor. And they're all about to go fight Thanos, you know. But that's it for me, y'all. Go check out my Peacemaker Season 2 breakdown in my Season 1 recap and breakdown of the entire Season 1. Those videos are up on the channel now. And Peacemaker Season 2 videos will be coming out as that season drops over the next 7 weeks. Thank you guys so much for coming on by. Make sure you like this video, comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Those are great ways to support the channel. If you want to follow my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. And stay tuned for more Hot Toys unboxings tomorrow with a Batman figure and with another Superman unboxing coming next week with the in-art Superman you saw in the comparison section in this video. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys hit the bell so you don't miss those future videos and you get the notifications when they come out. Once again, my name is Big Cam. Thank you guys so much for coming on by. This has been a Hot Toys 1/6 scale unboxing for the Man of Steel Superman. And I will see you beautiful people in the next video. Peace.